Hello, crypto community. Jeff Kirdeikis here with Michael Gu, Boxmining in Bali, in his villa. This is like one of the only cold places in Bali right now. It's so refreshing. Michael, thanks for sitting down and taking a chat. Appreciate it, man. So we are going to be getting into security tokens, digital securities, and Michael's going to take the stance against digital securities.
Yeah.
He is
It sucks, man. It's for losers.
Yeah. So why do STOs suck? What's the big thing?
All right. So
there?
okay. So let's. Yeah. So I think for just to explain a little bit, I'm gonna be super negative here, but it's not fully reflective of all I think.
Right.
But just for the purpose of the debate, I want some conflict. I want some action. So I'm gonna go full in on anti. STOs.
The anti-STO debate.
The anti-STO debate.
Let's see if I can hold my own here.
All right. So for me, like, let's just say this this adventure in the STO space, it seems to be really great at first, right? So you have this idea that you have a global market that you can tap into. Every nation is contributing together, and you see stock markets moving that direction too. For example, Chinese stocks like Alibaba, they're moving to the States. So it just seems like the next logical conclusion is to do security tokens, so put it on a blockchain, trade it. But there's one key problem, which is the fact that every government, they regulate it and they tax that. They want their money from it because it's a huge part. I mean, businesses, stock markets, they represent a huge portion of a government's economy.
For sure.
And I think this is described the best by Jeffrey from MachiX, Jeffrey Huang. And he's basically saying, you know, consider this as a mafia, right? The mafia owns the government, the mafia.
Yeah.
They own these security space.
Yeah.
Right? Every government owns it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's all, the government's got like deep hands, and there's lawyers. Lawyers have been like working on the IPO scene for such a long time.
For sure.
Are they gonna give this up without a fight?
Yeah.
Right? So this is the biggest problem. Like this is the biggest challenge. Right now I think we have a bunch of kids who says, oh yeah, we can create tokens, Vitalik. Yeah, tokens. Yeah. This is good. Now we put this on a security. But the problem, of course, is the legal framework.
For sure.
The government's going to completely block it. The lawyers, they're going to just say, fuck you. We're going to make our businesses with regular securities. We're going to try to block this.
Yeah.
There's politicians that you got to pay off. Just right now, we just don't have enough money.
Yeah.
Right? Right now, market cap of crypto is in the billions, not the trillions, right?
Yeah.
Once you reach the trillions, maybe you got enough money to bribe the governments, to bribe the politicians, to bribe. That's how the world works, right?
Yeah.
The world is dark and full of terrorists, and you gotta bribe every motherfucker along the way. And crypto, we just ain't rich enough.
It's, you know, a lot of that is true. And if you're coming in and you're going to try to take down the NASDAQ, and you're like, okay, we're launching NASDAQ 2.0, and it's also going to be across China and Japan, and we're going to take down all of these massive financial markets, that ain't happening. Not in a million years, because those guys hold the pie, and they don't want to give any slices away.
So how are you going to convince anyone to give you a portion of the pie?
That's an awesome question. So I think, first of all, is that when security tokens, digital securities are going to be launching, we're not going to be going after the NASDAQ, these companies that have already IPO'd. We're not going to be trying to tokenize them immediately. We're going to start going with small to medium-sized enterprises, tokenizing real estate.
Yeah, but who's going to buy them? Who's going to be on the other side? Who's going to provide the liquidity, right? Because the problem is, all right, you say we're not going to go after NASDAQ, fine.
Right.
But what about if you're not going after NASDAQ, but you're going after Americans? That's essentially going after NASDAQ, right? That's essentially you're on NASDAQ's turf. Right, so you know how are they gonna release their control? Right, they've got politicians like lobbyists, they got lawyers, all the fancy lawyers, all the frameworks built around that, and this is something that's very territorial. It's very interesting because it's exactly like gang wars. I mean, the moment that the TON token, right, Telegram Open Network token, when it was about to be released in America, there were like a million lawsuits being filed at them, right?
Yeah.
Even though the foundation and Telegram tried to set up a legal framework that allowed them to sell those tokens.
Yeah.
But the moment it was gonna be sold in the hands of Americans, like it was a big, legal disaster.
For sure.
So, how are we gonna do it? How are the first STOs? I mean, you can be idealistic and say, yeah, we're gonna go after smaller companies, but the moment you touch Americans.
And I think that's an interesting thought, like the moment you touch Americans, then you're going to get kind of like X'd.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily sure I agree with that. What I agree with is that we're saying they want, they're greedy. They want money. They want to tax it. They want to regulate it.
Yeah.
And on the NYSE, on the NASDAQ, you're not going to have like a rental property that's worth $2 million. You're never going to put it on there. So I wouldn't say that it's on their turf. So if you're saying, hey, we're going to tokenize this $2 million rental property, yada, yada, here's how you're going to take a slice of the pie. We're building like a market that's not even infringing on yours, and you now make more money.
So you're just trying to take it, you're going to try to tokenize stuff that isn't on their turf, basically.
For sure.
That's what you think is going to happen.
Well, that's the first move for sure. And I think then what does it look like when you start to infringe on their turf?
Yeah.
That's when things get really, really sticky.
Yeah. It is. It's going to be like, and I think it just take the optimism down a notch. I mean, not just about America, right? What about China? China's
For
like
sure.
big FU, right?
Yes.
Anything security, big, like get the hell out. India also, they're not crypto friendly at all. Like the world's biggest economies are just not crypto friendly.
Yeah.
And yet that's where the money's at, right? So at the end of the day, I think that's the over optimism is to bring all markets together, but obviously, maybe taking small markets. I mean, there are properties like ski resorts that are being tokenized right now.
Right.
What's the status on that?
On the ski resorts, I haven't even heard of these ones.
Oh, really?
No.
Okay. So there were various ski resorts that were tokenized and even launched, but the problem was, of course, the liquidity was a little bit low. It didn't.
I see. Like on the market itself, on the exchanges.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess that's an interesting point because let's say it wasn't listed on an exchange. What would the liquidity be? It would be even lower, right? So I think we're so used to seeing volume on CoinMarketCap of like $20 billion traded on Bitcoin when like 95% of that is fake anyways. So I think the whole volume thing is like really, it's almost a moot point because if there's any availability for liquidity, that's, you mentioned the 10x rule is kind of like one of your staples. If it's at least 10x better liquidity, well, that's a revolutionary thing. And right now, the only way to like exchange equity is through paperwork and handshakes. It's a really ineffective system.
Okay, so speaking about liquidity, I actually think that the liquidity pool is vastly small. This is the other problem because right now, the number of security tokens, real big security token exchanges are like zero.
Yes.
Essentially, the legal ones anyways.
Yeah.
I've actually seen attempts to build exchanges that, the funniest one I saw was a bunch of Russians. They set up a company in Estonia, then they tokenized SpaceX. They bought
shares.
They brought private shares into SpaceX.
What was that? Yeah, what was that? What was it called? Because they also tokenized Apple and a whole bunch of other stocks as well, didn't they?
And then they tried to list it. I'm like, dude, this is like, you are having a one-way ticket to jail. And the worst part is they have no liquidity either.
Right.
Because the people who usually want to trade stocks, they're already trapped in the ecosystem, trading stocks and the brokers.
Yeah.
And, they got their favorite brokers already. So trying to persuade them to go into crypto, it's
right. Well, I guess so. Here's the question, because for example, like let's say you tokenize. So somebody literally purchases stocks of Apple, just to simplify it, and they're like, okay, we're going to now fractionalize this stock and represent it with a token. You're saying that just because of like the legal ramifications, that's a terrible idea?
Yeah, there's a million problems.
Yeah.
Because obviously securities law is a very, very murky, dark area where expensive lawyers are the way to go. I mean, even if you think about it this way, right? If you want to set up a exchange right now that deals with not securities, or even if you want to list a token that's not a security, that's a utility, the number of lawyers you got to hire is insane, right? So I've actually heard of ICOs that they hire like 4 or 5 teams of lawyers around the world. So one UK-based one US-based one Hong Kong-based one Singapore-based one.
Yeah.
And they try to cover as much legal framework as possible. And essentially, this is just for letters saying they're not a security. Right, but if they are a security, if you want to get that security framework going, to create your own securities exchange. Yes. I mean, you can think of the workload as not just 10xing, but 100xing. I mean, this is why NASDAQ, as old as it is, there's no rival, right? You don't have Apple saying, yeah, you know what? We have like millions of users on Apple phones. Let's just get them all into stocks and we'll build our own Apple trading exchange. Like Apple, they definitely have the tech for it. Yeah. Or Facebook or Google, but they just they know that they can't rival this. So I see that as a big barrier. How do you create your first highly liquid with millions of people securities exchange?
Yeah.
You know.
And that's, like you say, there's so many barriers to entry when creating an exchange on the legal framework. No question about that. And it's never going to be like set it and boom, there's all our users. I think a lot of people expect things to be like that. Like, for example, like when Nano launched, it's like, wow, instant free transactions. This is like way better than Bitcoin. This is going to overtake the entire market. That's not the case. You need longevity. You need slow growth. And we're talking about like the exchanges and the arduous process to get an acceptance on that. I feel like there's also really arduous processes on actually just getting a token listed on these exchanges, because especially if you are just like a company that's very unique, because now you need to file your own PPM. There's all these due diligences that have to happen around it. It's super expensive because it's not cookie cutter. So what I see as like the first emergence in the security token space are these essentially cookie cutter style security token issuances. So one of the things that I think is just like the craziest idea, but I love it, is imagine if you could tokenize racehorses. So now you own a horse and you're like, okay, I want to buy a horse, and then I want to like breed it and train it and race it and wins money. And you can get like 1,000 people to invest in that horse. As it wins, the token price goes up. I can liquidate after a win because of my appreciation. And something as simple as a racehorse, it's the same thing every single time. It's not like a business where there's all these different moving parts and business plans. So you could literally like cut and paste, like almost like a DocuSign form, like insert racehorse name here, then just get it reviewed by one attorney. Boom, you're done, because it's been done 1,000 times already.
So you need the first kind of example of that succeeding.
Yes.
Maybe run it for 2-3 years, and boom, it's like an efficient system to buy a racehorse. Or I was actually thinking like, we got friends that were working on music IP rights and tokenizing music IP or something like that. So I think in that sense, like if it's different, not the same, it's not exactly a traditional stock as like a company stock, and you're not treading over someone's toes, you're doing something that's on yourself. I think maybe that's a possibility. I'll get off my I'll get off my negativity horse there. I was getting really negative.
Is that a pun on the negativity horse?
Yeah, the negativity horse. I'm gonna get off the negativity horse.
I'm gonna tokenize it.
Tokenize that, but I think it's just a time period. I think people in crypto were used to that 2-3 month time period.
Yeah.
And then for this idea of securities, I mean it's a revolutionary idea that might take 10-20 years.
100%. You look at these emerging technologies that just have like no regulatory setbacks. Like Cardano's a great example, and it's just like where is the tech? They've been around for 3-4 years. Things take time. So I don't know. It seems like you have a counterpoint to that.
I have a counterpoint.
Yeah.
It's just some people, if you give them too much time, they never build anything.
Right.
It's like in life you gotta have both, right? You gotta have pressure to deliver, even if it's like a test product.
Yes.
And then you also have to couple that with if it's really does taking that long, it's like how do it's like this is the biggest question in life, right? So I'm digressing a bit, but like how do you figure out if this guy is just pulling shit out of his ass,
right, or
he's actually producing something?
Yeah.
And I mean this is gonna be relating back to the STO space as well. How do you know if STO space is moving ahead? And I think it's with these markers where we can see various security tokens being tokenized, maybe not directly like SpaceX. I think that's going to be impossible.
Yeah.
Like, just the number of lawsuits there, it's going to bury anyone that doesn't have $1 trillion.
Yeah.
But if it's anything like a racehorse, music, or fractional parts of properties, like that's a possibility. So I think we'll probably see like markers for that soon, and then it'll take some time, maybe. That's the only way you can persuade me. I think is just time. But I think we both agree on the time scale. It's much longer than what most people think.
Yeah.
I mean, the funniest story I had was there was this girl who was working in the ICO scene, and the ICO scene was just falling apart. So she jumped straight into advising, consulting for STO companies. And the biggest question I talked to her was like, ICOs, one of the biggest advantages was actually building a community. I mean, I think Binance actually proved that, where there were people actively just going out, use Binance Exchange, etc.
Right.
And it was a very powerful tool, I guess. Maybe a little bit too powerful. I won't discuss that here. But I was like, how do you get that sort of feeling on an STO? Because STOs, there's so many limitations. You can only get accredited investors to invest in maybe initially. You just won't have a community building. And she's like, I've got a conference talk in a week that's going to deal with this issue. And we're going to solve it. Michael, just watch. And then 6 months later,
Yeah. And I mean, I agree. It's much more constrained on how you can do your promotions. Because, for example, if you're selling tokens at $1 a piece, you can't do any discounts over here. You can't do airdrops. But you can set up different frameworks. If you're you could set up, say, a system where you're okay, I'm going to do only a bounty first. And then I'm going to do a regats and open it up to the entire world. And so there are systems that you can structure it around. But you mentioned the different projects, and I think something that's so important to highlight is pretty much no project offers equity, which is to me the most hypocritical thing. You look at Ravencoin. I understand they're not a company in themselves, but there's a ton. Polymath, Securitize, Harbor. None of these guys offer equity to retail investors, and it's only a utility token. And what is the utility of that token? It's to issue the security, and how many securities are we actually issuing? Polymath, less than 200 in a year, or less than 200 in his lifetime, and it's that's not a good token demand. And so you look at Ravencoin.
It's not. It's like I'm buying cheese, but the factory's not open yet.
Right.
You don't even have the cows yet. You haven't even sourced the milk yet.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's hard. These are Chuck E. Cheese tokens, but Chuck E. Cheese but maybe this is in the 1500s, and we're buying Chuck E. Cheese tokens.
Exactly.
We're 400 years away from actual Chuck E. Cheese being deployed.
For sure.
And the tech's not ready for it to be used.
And the tech isn't that proprietary either. Ooh. So, you look at 5 years down the road, well, maybe it's not just going to be Ravencoin, and there's so many security token issuance platforms. I was just in Singapore, and the conference must have been at least 5% security token issuance platforms. They're white labeling them. Get out the door.
Oh, wow.
So and just regular exchanges as well. Exchanges are the big topic right now, or what I'm seeing emerging, which is ridiculous. But again, that's another topic.
Right.
But there's going to be a lot of saturation coming into the space, and so there's going to offer for people. It's going to be great for consumers. Absolutely terrible for businesses who don't have their shit together.
Gonna be fun times ahead. So I think
times ahead.
Should we wrap this session up?
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right, guys. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for having me, Jeff.
For sure.
I hope it goes well. I mean, you're advising your own security token company as well.
That's right. Yeah. And so that, we were talking about that they don't own equity is the problem. Pref Logic is the company, and they're essentially the only security token issuance company where you can own equity in the company itself.
All right. Hope that goes well, and hope legally we're all set up. So
yeah, that's right.
Thank you for that. Catch us more. I'm on Boxmining.
Yes.
Jeff is on your own channel on Uptrend.
Yeah.
You can find him anywhere on Facebook. Cryptocurrency investing group. It's going to be great, guys. Check out the links below or something.
See you next time.
See you next time.